Novel Navigator. Chapter 91, Battle against Spider Mother. The smoke and dust spread throughout the forest, creating a thick haze that obscured the sun. Cough. Adam choked on the air, struggling to breathe. He slowly climbed back to his feet and looked around at the suffocating smoke. He couldn't see anyone else. Where are they? Adam covered his mouth and nose with his hand and then moved deeper into the haze. Click, click, click. His feet halted, and he came to a complete stop. The clicking sounded weak and barely audible. However, it didn't come too far from him. Adam tightened his grip on his sword, then headed forward at a leisurely pace and soon came across a legless spider demon struggling to crawl. It was desperately trying to head in the direction of the small mountain that didn't exist anymore. You can still sense your mother. Adam stabbed his sword through the spider demon's head and then looked ahead. The spider demon wasn't the only one who could still sense the spider demon. I can sense her. She's in pain. Adam continued walking forth and soon arrived at the site of the destruction. The small mountain was no longer there. It was replaced by a small crater with burned twigs and trees strewn about. The ground was still hot to the touch. At that moment, a long leg of a spider stabbed through the ground, and from the thick smoke, a massive arachnid emerged, its 8 eyes gleaming with malice. Its black fur had burned off in patches, revealing a glossy, obsidian exoskeleton. Spider Mother. HP, 55%. Click, 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 click. Adam narrowed his eyes and moved to an attacking stance. However, then 2 spider demons jumped from the thick haze, screaming and clicking their fangs. They came here as fast as possible to defend their mother. Adam quickly slashed through one of them and then blocked the other's durable exoskeleton. Arms. The spider demon clawed with its sharp mandibles, but Adam cut them straight off and then flicked his wrist, changing the trajectory of the blade, and hacked into the creature's head, killing it instantly. Click, click, click. The spider mother's clicking turned louder and more murderous. Her anger was boiling over like an erupting volcano. Its steel legs lifted high into the air and then flew straight towards Adam. Adam quickly activated his Kiryoku and evaded the highly dangerous legs, narrowly missing being impaled. One of the legs swung sideways like a whip, but Adam quickly placed his shield at the side of him and blocked it. However, his feet slid across the muddy ground, and he even almost slipped. Another leg suddenly swung straight at him. Adam leaped over it, and the leg smashed through the tree, shattering it into splinters. The spider mother screeched in anger and swung several of her legs at Adam. Adam, using his shield and sword, blocked them and moved at blitzering speed, dodging some of the legs and attacking a few, leaving behind slash marks on the creature's thick exoskeleton. Clang, clang, clang. The sparks flew as the two battled fiercely. Adam and the spider mother exchanged a fierce series of blows, neither seemingly gaining an advantage. Annoyed by it, the spider mother let out a spine-chilling screech. Adam's body started trembling, and cold sweat rolled down his face. It looked like he was frightened of something. Fear. Inducement. The spider mother opened its disgusting mouth and shot out a wave of spider webs towards Adam. The threads wrapped around him in a sticky embrace. Click, click, click. The spider mother slowly approached its prey. It still looked angry. After all, this human killed so many of her children. However, her anger slightly subsided, knowing that she was able to feast on such a large meal. It was much better than the usual boar, deer, or birds her children usually catch for her. Eaten alive? Hey! Adam gritted his teeth and tried to break through, but couldn't. The spider mother's thread was strong material. It was often used for climbing rope, as it was much more durable than ordinary rope. There are bad ways to die, this is one of them. The spider mother opened its disgusting mouth wide. It would be able to eat Adam's head. With one bite. As it was ready to feast on her prey, suddenly a ball of fire appeared on top of her tongue. She could smell and feel smoke rising up from her throat. Click! Boom! The fireball exploded, and the spider mother screamed in agony. Its health dropped another 10%, all the way to 45%. Attack! Nahus's shout came from the haze, and then the remaining members of the party rushed towards Spider Mother and attacked her from all angles. Hannah shot her fireballs, her wand was constantly moving. The Spider Mother recoiled in pain, screeching as she tried to fight back against the onslaught. Nahus came to Adam and shouted, "Adam Slasher!" His silvery blade cut through the thread with incredible accuracy, and then the spider web fell off of Adam's body, setting him free. "Whew, thanks." Adam saw his hands were still trembling in fear. He quickly slapped himself in the face. The fear-inducement state vanished. "I am not letting you hog all of the glory," Nahus said and then nodded at Alan. They rushed straight to the battle and pushed the Spider Mother further back. The Spider Mother screeched annoyingly and shot her long legs straight towards Hannah. It was as if she could tell that without her, it would be much easier to kill the rest. Hannah's face paled. She imagined getting impaled by the long leg, and it made her tremble in fear. At that moment, Adam came in and hacked his sword down. It went straight through the steel leg, causing the spider creature to collapse and writhe in pain. "Good shit, Adam!" Nahus shouted and drove his sword through one of the Spider Mothers. 8 eyes. Thanks, Adam." Hannah thanked him with a small blush on her cheeks. "No problem." Adam leaped to the top of the Spider Mother's bulging belly, and while she tried to shake him off, he plunged his sword deep into her body and twisted it. With another painful screech, the Spider Mother shook him off and writhed around in agony. Everyone quickly retreated, or they would get crushed by her weight. A few arrows flew and stabbed through her eyes. She was basically blind already, as her blood dripped down her face in thick, dark streams. "Attack!" Nahus screamed, realizing that she was already at the gates of death. Everyone surrounded her and attacked with everything they had. Adam even started using his little god, slashing with such speed that it seemed like he had multiple arms. After a short while, the Spider Mother let out one final screech and fell to the ground. She looked mangled and lifeless, her many legs twitching in their final death throes. And then, a few seconds later, she finally stopped moving. Her health reached 0%. "Ha, ha!" Everyone panted and watched at the lifeless corpse of the Spider Mother. "We did it!" Alan whispered. After that, everyone erupted into cheers. The raid was successful. "Whew!" Adam smiled in relief and sat down on the ground. Ding, ding! "Hey!" He slowly opened his eyes and saw a surprising sight. "You have leveled up. Level 1 too. Oh!" He chuckled, "I guess I killed over 100 spider demons, and then everyone who is participating in boss fights also gets experience points, no matter if one didn't get the kill. It depends on how much one helped to kill it. I guess I got the largest percentage, giving me enough to level up. Level 2. Not enough to level up to Order Giver, but my progress is looking good." Chapter 92, Return to Dawn Watch. A bright, golden light appeared in the sky. It was almost as bright as the sun. At that moment, from the light, a treasure chest appeared and dropped down to the ground with a thump. "The treasure chest is here." Nahus walked over to the chest and kicked it open, revealing piles of shining coins and worn-out scrolls with some weapons stabbed into them. He placed his hand on the treasure chest, and then the chest disappeared and left behind a pouch with shine coins inside, a couple of scrolls, a couple of weapons, and a strange ring with a glowing gemstone embedded in it. A pouch with 15,000 shine coins inside. A couple of common weapons and a rare longsword. Not bad. Skills of common rank, a spell scroll. A ring. Nahus picked up the ring and examined it. He tried to gain information out of it, but everything just came up as question marks. It is definitely an artifact. Artifact. Hannah looked at it with an excited look. That must be worth a lot. I'll show it to the guild master. Nah said and stored most of the stuff inside his inventory. Then, he split the money in 6 ways, giving each member of the party their fair share. 1,500 shine coins. Adam stored his shine coins inside his interface. Each member gets 1,500 shine coins, the rest goes to the guild. Let's scavenge important material from the Spider Mother, and then we'll leave. Nas gave an order. The Spider Mother had plenty of valuable materials that sold for a great deal. Rumble. The ground started suddenly shaking violently beneath their feet, causing the group to stumble and lose their balance. A few steps of stairs emerged from the muddy ground and headed towards the hazy sky. At the top of the stairs, a door appeared. It was slightly ajar, revealing a faint glow coming from inside. The door to the 11th floor. Nas thought out loud and waved his finger around. Finish up looting, we'll have to return to Dawnwatch soon. Adam looked over to the door for a moment, but then moved his gaze away. The 11th floor is dangerous. It was a thought shared by them all. From the 1st to the 10th floor, it was still basically a tutorial of the dungeon. The 11th floor was where the real challenges began. They would need an entire party consisting of order givers and above if they wanted to survive. A short while later, they finished harvesting Spider Mother for all of her valuable silk, venom, and body parts. "Aight, that's it!" Nas shouted. "Let's leave." Adam slung his heavy backpack over his shoulder, took a final look at the floor, before heading towards the exit with the rest of the group. Thump, thump. A carriage rolled down a cobblestone street. It arrived at the gates of Crimson Hound's residence and came to a gentle stop. The door swung open, and the exhausting-looking members of the raid party stepped out. The gates swung wide open, and the guard nodded at them briefly, welcoming them back from the raid. "I'll need to meet with the guild master." Nas walked over to the guard and said with a somber tone. "It is very serious. I'll inform him." The guard replied before turning to head into the guild hall. Nas then turned to the raid party and smiled, "Good job, everyone. It was much harder than expected, but we prevailed in the end. Go take a good rest." The raid party felt their shoulders weighed a ton, but they mustered a smile and started heading to their quarters. They planned to log off immediately, go take a long, hot shower, and then sleep for the entire day. "I guess I'll go check out the nearby merchant store," Adam thought to himself. He didn't plan to go to sleep just yet. There was some stuff he wanted to purchase with his newly earned shine coins. "Adam, mind coming with me?" Nas suddenly asked. Why?" Adam raised an eyebrow. "I have a feeling that the guild master wants to see that you are all right," Nas said. "After all, you're his pupil." "Fine, I suppose." Adam nodded. They waited for the guard to return, and soon he came back with hurried steps. "The guild master is waiting for you in his office." Nas and Adam immediately headed towards the office. It took them a while to navigate through the large villa. However, soon enough, they entered the office and saw that beside Digby, the vice guild master, Valera Holly, was also seated there with a purring cat in her lap. "I see that you made it safely back," Digby said. "Good job, Nas." "Thank you, guild master," Nas bowed, but then said somberly. "However, I have some bad news." "I heard from the guard that only half returned," Digby said with a frown. "The others died?" "Yes, they did." "That's unfortunate." Digby sighed. "We were ambushed," Nas said. "It wasn't by chaos beings, but by players." That surprised both Digby and Valera. "We never received a report that another guild beside ours was supposed to be there," Valera said. "Do you know who?" Digby asked with a steely expression. "Amarin Brothers." Them. Digby's eyes turned cold. But, why? What could they possibly gain from interfering in our raid like this? Perhaps their goal was to hinder us. Nahus said without certainty. Those who died wasted half a year of training. They'll have to start from scratch. That's a lot of time. I don't think so. Valera said. They knew if they got caught doing so, they'd be in trouble. To do something as dangerous for something so small doesn't make any sense. Digby looked over to the person who had been quiet so far and asked, Adam, do you have any idea? I sensed their attacking intent. Adam said. They were aiming for me. You sensed it. Digby's lips curled into a smile. You learned Kiryoku? Yes, I did, Adam replied. Good, good. Digby smiled, but then again steeled his expression. So, they were going after you. But why? Nahus asked with a frown. He wouldn't have lost almost anything from dying. It seems like a waste. They wanted to show how fragile he is. Valera said with a cold tone in her voice. Crimson Hound is weak and can't protect you. That was their message. Were they planning to recruit him? Nahus asked with a frown. No. Digby shook his head. Aaron is not stupid. He knows that Adam wouldn't possibly join. People who schemed and eventually killed him. Then what? They wanted Adam to leave. Valera said. To go seek better protection. They wanted him to go to Imperium City. They must have been losing hair over knowing that we have S-Ranker in our midst. Digby said. With a scoff. They're scared about the future. The future? Nahus whispered. I am getting old. Digby said with a sigh. We all know it. I am almost past my prime. There comes a time when I keep becoming weaker and weaker. Valera lowered her head with a disheartened expression. She moved her hand across the cat's back, feeling the soft fur beneath her fingertips. The future generation is all that matters. Digby said. We hadn't had proper talent in a long time. We've tried to acquire A-rankers, but none of them want to join a declining guild. That's why. If they get rid of Adam, they can just wait for a couple of years and then finish us off when we are weak enough. I still don't understand why. Nahus said. Why are the Amarin brothers so set on destroying us? What happened between us and them? Valera looked at Digby with a soft look. Amarin Brothers was destined to become a Tier 1 guild. Digby said. After all, they had 3 powerful, talented brothers leading them. 3. Nahus frowned and soon realized. You mean? I killed one of their brothers. Digby said. That brother eventually gave up on Mortal Online after losing everything. That's why Aaron and Arun hate me to the core. Chapter 93, Marketplace. The sun's rays filtered through the window, casting a warm glow on the hardwood floor. The cat purred while curling up in Valera's lap, the sun rays landing on its fur like golden threads. In the office, after Digby revealed the truth about his past with Amarin Brothers, he asked Nahus to explain everything that happened on the 10th floor. After finishing up telling the story, Nahus asked. So, what should we do now? Nahus stood with a few sweat drops forming on his forehead. Is this war? No. Digby said, shaking his head. It is unlikely that this will escalate into war, Valera added. Aaron and Arun will panic after knowing that they failed. They're going to await our next move. Digby said. May I ask, what are you planning to do? Adam asked. Digby stood up, buttoned up his jacket, and placed his glasses back inside his drawer. Digby. Valera whispered, wondering what he was planning. She had been with him for a long time, but even she couldn't tell what he was thinking about. I'll go threaten them. Digby said, took his coat, and headed to the door. Alone. Valera gently placed the cat down and stood up. I'll come with you. No, Digby said. But. Aaron and Arun are impulsive fools. Digby opened the door, put one foot outside, and turned to them. If they find out that their attack failed, they'll immediately assume it's going to be a war and will attack us. We are not ready for that attack. Our casualties will be massive. Instead, I'll go there and tell them myself that their ambush failed. I'll threaten them. However, I make sure that they don't think it will be a war. You know how much they hate you. Valera said. They'll attack you. Exactly. Digby laughed and walked out of the office. I'll show them the reason why the war will be the end of them. While I am gone, Valera, you are in the lead. I'll be back before midnight. With that, he left, his coat fluttering behind him. Sigh. Valera shook her head and then said to Nahas, You have something to deliver to the vault, right? Tell the guard I sent you. All right. Nahas said, nudging his chin at Adam, and they both then left. After leaving the office, they walked silently down the hallway. However, that silence was cut short. You think it'll be war? Nahas asked. The war is never taken lightly. Adam said. You'll think they can just declare war without any consequences? This is Dawn Watch. The consequences will be severe. Yeah, there's no way other guilds would just stand still. Nahas said with a nod. The war interrupts their lives too. Adam said. They could decide their conflict with the trial of combat rule. Trial of combat? Nahas asked with a frown. I've never heard of that. You haven't? Adam looked slightly surprised. It is a pretty common rule, no. I don't think so. Am I remembering wrong? Most conflicts were decided by that in the future. That rule should still exist in this time period. Anyway, what's that rule? Oh, the guilds will send their representatives to decide the fate of their guild. Usually it is their guild masters. However, our guild master is stronger than theirs, so I doubt they will use this rule. However, they can also make their strongest mercenarymen to fight each other if they want to decide like that. Rarely do they resort to such means. Since Digby is powerful, he shouldn't accept that, right? Nahas asked. If Amarin brothers want to fight, they'll have to do a trial of combat against our guild master. Yet, Digby doesn't have to accept the challenge otherwise. If the Amarin brothers still don't want to send one of their guild masters, it will show weakness. If guild shows weakness, they'll get eaten soon enough. Anyway, I'll have to deliver our rewards to the vault. Nahas quickly bid his farewell and scurried away. I guess I'll visit the marketplace. Adam headed out of a different door that led towards the bustling streets. Roadside stalls filled the market's street, with sizzling meat and rowdy vendors shouting in every direction. The place was packed to the brim with people bustling around, eager to make a purchase. Hello, everyone. A top hat-wearing man took the stage in the corner of the market. He was wearing a rather colorful tailored suit with a red bow tie. It almost seemed like he was a mix of a magician and a clown. It was hard to tell what kind of show he was about to put on. With that all, a small crowd gathered around him, curious etched on their faces. Most of the crowd were originals, but there were a few players mixed in as well. I'll show y'all today something very special. The man pulled out a wand from his top hat and waved it around. A rainbow of colors shot out from the tip, mesmerizing everyone who watched. The colors suddenly transformed into images. There were cars roaming down the streets, planes flying across the skies, and rocket ships launching into space. Whoa! The originals seemed amazed. The players, however, were disappointed and slowly dispersed. They realized the man was just another person who tried to use the mysteriousness of the other world to their advantage. The originals knew the players came from a place called the Other World and had heard many stories about it. Thus, the man's show was very interesting to them. while it was completely boring in the player's eyes. This man wasn't the only one who did such shows. Many others had earned a small fortune doing such things. It was common practice to use the ignorance of the originals to find ways of earning money. At that moment, a black-haired young man walked by the crowd. He glanced at the show before turning away. Where was it? Adam pondered, but then he found what he was looking for and quickly pushed past the pedestrians. Soon, he arrived at a stand that had a small line. A group of mercenaries were searching for something to buy. The merchant, with a sly smile, sold them a map that was rumored to lead to a hidden treasure. The mercenaries eagerly handed over their coins and set off on their quest. Easy money. The merchant pocketed the money, took out an identical-looking map from the back, and put it back on display. You aren't afraid that they'll find out about your scam and come to kill you? Adam asked. With a smirk. Ha, a scam. The merchant scoffed and waved his hand. It ain't a scam. That map is real. I just made some copies of it. If some other person manages to find the treasure first, it ain't my fault. Fair enough, I guess. Adam shook his head and asked. I am in search of two particular skills. Names. Pull and push. Adam scratched his nose. Spell scrolls, common rank. Let me check it out. The merchant rummaged through his countless boxes, and then he exclaimed and brought out two spell scrolls, one for pull and one for push. That's 750 shine coins each. No, it isn't. Adam said with a scoff. It's common rank skills, not uncommon. A price had changed, inflation, and shit. The merchant said with an ugly laugh. Think twice. Adam said and revealed a sigil of crimson hounds. I am not some fool from the Tier 4 guild. Humph. The merchant clicked his tongue. Fuck it, it ain't worth it. He showed 5 fingers. 500 each. Wise choice. Adam took out the required amount of coins and placed them in front of the merchant. Thank you for your purchase. Adam stored the scrolls inside his inventory and tipped his hat as a sign of farewell. Wait a second, young man. The merchant said and slyly asked. Are you interested in 2 very interesting healing flasks? Flask of setting sun and flask of rising moon. I would, but I am poor. Adam shook his head and said, I can't afford it. All right then, but when you do, you know where to find me. It is dangerous for mercenaries to travel without proper healing supplies. I guess he planned to sell me faulty flasks, maybe filled with just water. TCH. Adam walked away after making his purchase. It was an odd purchase after not having even learned magic. In the eyes of many, it would seem like a wasteful purchase. As Adam was about to leave, someone grabbed him by the arm and tugged him towards the nearest alley. Without hesitation, Adam pulled out his sword and placed it against the person's neck. Ahaha, calm down. The person was a woman, with dark short hair and dimples forming around her cheeks. She was dressed in a robe that was tattered and worn. She didn't plan to attack me, as I didn't sense her attacking intent. However, what the hell does she want? Adam looked around, whether she was alone or with someone. Currently, it looked like she was alone. Who the hell are you? Adam lowered his gaze to her chest, as there was a necklace hanging around her neck that caught his eye. That's... Do you want to hear about God Almighty, our Creator and Father? Oh no, these lunatics. Chapter 94, Power of Holiness. No, thanks. Adam quickly refused and turned around to leave. Wait. The young woman grabbed him by the arm and pulled him back to face her. Are you sure? I am. Adam tugged back his arm. Her crystal clear eyes searched his face for something. Her gaze was intense and unwavering. Then, why do I feel a power of holiness in you? Adam frowned, unsure how to respond. This wasn't his first time meeting with someone from the Church of God Almighty. Each meeting had been more awkward than the previous one. However, this was the first time someone mentioned that he was in possession of the power of holiness. The power of holiness. It's what those churchgoers possess. It's something they acquire after decades of praying and worshipping their God. They receive that power after being touched by the God Almighty, at least they think so. If someone has that power, they have a guaranteed spot in heaven. Thus, those with this power are usually in the highest positions in the church. Now, why did she say that I have that power? She must be mistaken. You seem confused, she said. You think I am mistaken? Yeah, Adam said. I can't possibly be in the possession of that power. You seem to know what it is, she said. Do you want to be sure whether you have that power? Follow me, and I will show you. Adam hummed. She doesn't seem to know who I am. I can sense her emotions, she feels excited. She really thinks that I've been touched by God. Well. She walked deeper into the alley and waved for him. Come on. What's your name? Adam asked before moving. If possible, he wanted to know her identity first in case this was going to be an ambush of some sort. After all, he shouldn't be in possession of the power of holiness. It was impossible. However, this might be ridiculous, but I regressed back to my younger self. It sounds like something only God can do. It's stupid. Sure, God can exist back in the real world, but here. My name. She turned to him and smiled. My name's Loya. Loya. Adam gulped and asked. Loya Young. Yes, you know me. Loya tilted her head curiously. Ah, kind of. Adam's back was drenched in sweat. What year was it? Year 2150. Why did I have to meet her out of everyone? Is something wrong? Loya asked curiously. No. Adam shook his head and slowly followed after her. Loya Young, the demoness who ate the sundae. They walked down the maze-like alleyways, and soon, the sun hid behind the tall roofs of the buildings around them. It became dark. Here we are. Loya, with a smile, approached a house that was tucked away in the corner of the alley. It was so hidden and out of sight that no one would find it unless they were looking for it. Loya did a strange knocking tempo on the door. It sounded like a secret message. "Ha, we got our own secret message," Loya said smugly. "We're secretive and mysterious like that." "Right." Adam rolled his eyes. Click, and the door opened ajar. A face peeked out cautiously and nodded at the sight of Loya. "Were you followed, Loya?" "Nope, but I have a visitor," Loya cheerfully exclaimed. "A visitor?" "Yes, a very special visitor." The door opened wider. "Come in." The man smiled warmly and invited the two in. He had a dark hoodie pulled over his head, with his black hair peeking out and framing his face. The face was quite pale-skinned, as if he had just stepped out of a freezer, and his eyes were a dull black with no visible iris or pupil. "Thanks." Loya entered the house, slowly followed by Adam. Adam shot a glance at the hooded figure, didn't recognize him, and then headed deeper into the house that currently didn't have any lights on. "Now, why did you bring the stranger to our headquarters?" the man asked. "Tim, Come on, why did you reveal my name?" Tim shouted in frustration. My bad, Tim." Loya sheepishly scratched the back of her head. "Sigh." Tim pinched his nose and shook his head. "Anyway, why did you bring him? Try to sense him, and you'll see," Loya said with a smug smile. "Sense him?" Tim turned to Adam, locked his Kiryoku in him, and his eyes widened immediately. "Woa, power of holiness. I knew it." Loya laughed heartily. I knew I wasn't mistaken. Wait, you weren't sure? Tim asked with a twitching eyebrow. Not quite. Loya innocently laughed. Wait, what would you have done to me if I didn't have this? Adam asked in annoyance. Hee, we have forgot powder that we can use. Tim rolled his eyes and said, we are very secretive faction. We can't just let everyone. No. Yeah, very secretive. Adam sighed and said, you guys aren't actually with the Church of God Almighty, are you? Tim and Loya exchanged glances. We didn't actually get accepted. Loya said shyly. Which is stupid. Our faith is second to none. So, you must be part of the church, right? Tim asked. Before Adam could answer, Loya raised her hand. I invited him here so he could see how strong our faith is. He must be a high-ranking member of the church with the amount of power of holiness he has. Let's introduce him to everyone and show him the true power of our beliefs. Good idea. Tim gave a thumbs up. Wait. Adam looked exhausted. I think there is a mission. We'll introduce you to others. Loya cut him short and opened a door to the basement. Others are already here. Wait, Adam said, but then Loya pushed him through the door before he could finish his sentence. In the basement, there was a circular wooden door that was waist-high with 8 figures seated around it. There was a carpet with strange symbols all around it, and the walls were filled with paintings of the god and goddess in various poses. There was also a worship altar covered in candles and incense. Everyone, we have an important guest. Tim said. The 8 figures locked their gazes at Adam. Who is he? Sense him, guys. Loya said with a smug smile. Don't say that so casually. Adam's eyebrow twitched. It's considered disrespectful to just use Kyrioko on a person like that. If you do that to the wrong person, they might kill you for it. Power of holiness. The people echoed in shock. Yup. Loya smiled. He is a member of the Church of God Almighty. Ah. The 8 figures stood up in a hurry and bowed deeply to Adam, showing their respect. I guess it is too late to say that they are wrong. Adam sighed. I also don't want to lose my memories. It is troublesome. I might forget more of my memories than just the memories of this place. Let's show him the power of our faith. Loya shouted. They all took out their wooden crosses, planted a kiss on them, and held them up high. Oh, God of the old and the new, we, your loyal servants, seek guidance at this time of distress. Their chants echoed throughout the basement. Adam watched with his arms crossed. Nothing ever happens during these worship sessions. I'll just pretend to be impressed and then leave. However, against all odds, the red fire in the candles turned gold. It was rather damp and cold in the basement, but strangely, a wave of warmth enveloped them all and the room began to glow with an otherworldly light. Oh my God! Everyone gasped in awe and disbelief. This was the first time this happened to them as well. Gee, God is descending upon us. Are we the chosen ones? What the hell is this? Adam's eyes shook. Chapter 95, Power of Faith. As their gazes landed on the holy gold light, their eyes started burning with an intensity that they had never felt before. Ah! Loya and others screamed in pain that pierced through their very souls. Adam immediately looked away and tried covering his eyes with his hand, but the piercing light went between his fingers and continued to sear his retinas. Drop your crosses, fools! He shouted painfully. And no! Tim shouted while his eyes were literally lit in flames. This is God's warmth. I have dreamed of this day. We'll die. Adam screamed. If you don't quit the ceremony, right now. We have dreamed of this for so long. Loya screamed. If we die, will be embraced by the warm glow of divinity. This God is not real. Adam screamed. You'll just wake back up from darkness and respawn. How could you say that? Loya asked with bloodied eyes. You have been touched by God. Yet, you don't seem to believe in his godly powers. Aren't you part of the church? Tim asked. Why does your faith seem so weak? I am not part of the church. Adam shouted while backing away from the light. You guys just assumed so. I don't know why I have the power of holiness. I don't remember ever praying or being touched by so-called God. What? Loya seemed shocked. No wonder. Tim whispered. I was wondering why you're so young looking. That explains a lot. The light seemed to intensify, and it was already impossible to open the eyes. TCH, just stop the ceremony. Adam screamed. Our faith is not this weak. Tim said and forcefully opened his eyes, looking straight at the blinding light. Loya and others slowly opened their eyes and spread their arms around, as if they were trying to hug the warm light. These fools. Adam looked annoyed. It's not real. Several years ago. Oh, God of the old and the new. Chants reverberated throughout a cathedral, echoing off the ancient and golden walls. Thousands of white-robed figures knelt in perfect unison, their voices rising in a melodious chorus. It was the annual sacrifice day, a solemn event that had been passed down through generations. It was a day to honor the gods and ensure a bountiful harvest for the year ahead. On the top balcony of the cathedral, 6 figures watched the ceremony, all already dressed in their armor, as if they were preparing to leave for a battle at a moment's notice. A gentle-looking woman had her hands in prayer. She was gently swaying her head back and forth, whispering silent words to herself. Sigh. Leaning against the railing, a man with muscular build, with a back-sized shield on the back and a long hilted sword in the belt, was staring off towards the altar. Adam, are you not interested in the ceremony? A beautiful woman with a rosy tint on her cheeks walked next to him, looking at him with a smile. Not really, Saphira. Adam shrugged as he turned to face her. They're praying for a person with a god complex, nothing more. Saphira giggled and shook her head. You still have that theory of yours. I mean, who else could it be? Adam asked. Someone created this world. It would make somewhat sense that they think of themselves as God. However, acting as one is just too far, in my opinion. Haha, don't you think it is fascinating, though? Saphira put her chin on her hand and looked towards the altar. This game appeared out of nowhere. It just appeared one day, without any warning. Don't you think this game was a work of God? I think my theory is closer to the truth. Adam said with a chuckle. Saphira shook her head with a wry smile. At that moment, a silver-haired woman approached them from behind and wrapped her slender arms around Adam's shoulders, whispering, Your theory is stupid, Adam. Adam looked over his shoulder at the beautiful, silver-haired woman, whose face radiated pureness and elegance. Her smile looked far too pure. You. He could see the mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Shouldn't you be at the altar? Pope Almighty will do the finishing touches. Lady Yu said with a gentle smile and hugged him tightly, pressing her chest against his shield. You can't keep your eyes off me, can you? You're stupid. Adam flicked her in the forehead. Ow! Lady Yu pouted and playfully pushed him away. Lady Yu. Saphira bowed to her and said, A beautiful ceremony, as always. Thanks. Lady Yu smiled, her eyes sparkling with pride. She turned to look at the other people present and said, Oh, famed generals of Star Faction, welcome to the ceremony of the gods. It was beautiful. Fleur said with her eyes sparkling with excitement. I almost could feel the warmth of God. Perseus scratched his ear-length brown hair and shyly nodded his head. Thanks for the invite, Holy Priestess, Lady Yu. Kiernan mumbled and nodded stoically. It sure was a beautiful event. Dean stood up, put one hand on his chest, and bowed respectfully. And you made it even more beautiful, Lady Yu. Lady Yu just warmly smiled in response. However, her curse of men was acting up quite harshly. Still, she kept her composure and smile. Dean, even my skin crawled in disgust. Perseus said with disgust. Don't do that again. Ugh. Ha. Perseus is right, Dean, never do that again. Kiernan shook his head. Haha, even the stoic Kiernan said so. Perseus laughed raspily. TCH, Dean clicked his tongue but then smirked. You guys are just jealous. Just back in my hometown, I have girlfriends for every day of the week. Sure you do. MMH, I believe you. Saphira shook her head with a smile. Dean, lying has never been your strongest suit. Aish. Dean looked defeated. No one believes me. Are you all right? Adam looked at Lady Yu. Need to go. I am fine. Lady Yu said with a smile and leaned against his shield. The curse eases up. In your presence, so it isn't that bad. Lady Yu, we were just talking about Adam's lack of faith. Fleur said with a smile. Can you convince him otherwise? Adam rolled his eyes, not believing that anything could change his mind. My Adam's mind is sadly closed off to new possibilities, Lady Yu replied with a knowing look. Perhaps a miracle is needed to change his perspective. Adam, don't you find it strange that this game came out of nowhere? The world didn't even have the technology to create this. Not even now, after 20 years of Mortal Online's creation. No one has been able to replicate this. Don't you find it strange? Saphira asked. I think it is strange, sure. Adam said and laughed. However, a god's creation? Quite far fetched, I would say. Didn't God create your world as well? Lady Yu asked. So, I've heard. Adam shrugged his shoulders. It was something he didn't have any answers to. By the way, when is your marriage? Fleur asked teasingly. Come on, Adam, put a ring on her finger. Lady Yu's cheeks turned pink, and she said teasingly. That's right, Adam. All right, time to go. Adam said, changing the subject. Saphira, isn't it time? Saphira quickly checked her timepiece and nodded solemnly. That's right. This changed the mood of the balcony completely. Aish, war, we come. Dean stood up with a laugh. We're going to be late if we don't hurry. Be careful. Lady Yu said worryingly towards Adam. Adam nodded, and then the 6 figures left the cathedral. It was the year 2160, and it was time for the Second Guild War between the Star faction and the Death faction. A war that would change the course of history forever. NGH. Adam shook his head and quickly ran up the stairs. He rushed out of the basement and then out of the house, his eyes still burning with the gold light. Arg! Adam screamed in pain, crouched on the dirty cobblestone ground, and took out some water from the canteen to wash his eyes. The pain slowly subsided, but he couldn't really see anything yet, except bright light dots dancing in his vision. Who? Adam put his hand over his face and slowly slid it down, feeling the touch of his skin and the coolness of the water. Crackle. Adam turned around and saw that the entire house was in flames. What the? As the flames turned tall and danced wildly, the gold light suddenly broke through the floor and exploded into a blinding white light. Adam quickly covered himself behind his shield as the house completely exploded. The explosion sent him flying, and he flew through a window, then through a wall. His vision went black as he lost consciousness. The house was razed to the ground. The gold light slowly dissipated. The worshippers were nowhere to be seen, as they had only turned into ash and dust. Chapter 96, The Rooftop Garden Fight. Distro Street, corner of the main avenue. At the rooftop garden of the Amarin Brothers Guild building. Aaron flipped through the newspaper while sipping his morning coffee. The echoes of pedestrians and carriages acted as background noise while the city slowly woke up. It had been a slow morning. He knew what was going to happen last night, the possible assassination of young members of Crimson Hounds. It was a risky mission and could end horribly, which could lead to a war. However, he was still able to sleep and wake up rather relaxingly. The door to the rooftop garden suddenly opened, and Arun came rushing in with disheveled hair. Arun was completely opposite. He couldn't sleep a wink and was visibly anxious. They still haven't reported in. Arun shouted while pacing back and forth. I told Ray to report back every morning. We haven't received a word. Calm down. Aaron said and took a short sip. It is hard to send a message from the dungeon. I'm sure we will receive a word soon. What if something happened? Arun asked. The 10th floor is smaller than the floors we're used to, but it is still a large place. There is a chance they haven't found them yet. Nothing to fret about. I guess. Arun sat down and enjoyed the morning winds as they blew through his hair. At that moment, Aaron and Arun flinched for a split second. You felt that? Aaron asked and dropped his newspaper. I did. Arun said and drew his cutlass from his belt scabbard. Someone is coming. In the sky, a black dot appeared. It was small at first, but it slowly grew in size, and it looked like the black dot was falling towards their rooftop garden. Aaron and Arun peered into the distance, trying to make out who or what it was. It's a person. The person crashed into the rooftop garden and made the building beneath tremble with the impact. It was just a little bit, but that caused the building to tip over to the side by only a few inches. The dust cleared up, and a figure stepped out of the dust cloud. You! Aaron couldn't believe his eyes. Digby! Arun screamed in anger. Digby patted off the dust from his crimson armor and slowly pulled out his long sword and diamond-shaped shield. You shouldn't have come here. Aaron said with a venomous tone. You'll die. Since he is here, that means. Arun grinned hideously. Ray and others succeeded. I guess they didn't succeed in removing all of their memories. Aaron said. That's still fine. Digby, are you sure that you want to start this war? Arun asked with a grin. Your father can't help you, if you do. You two are mistaken. Digby said with a chuckle. My subordinates are fine, thanks for asking. I can't say the same about yours. What? Aaron cried out. That's impossible. Then why are you here? Arun asked with an ugly expression. To show what happens when you touch my guild. Digby leaped forward, landed between the two brothers, and swung his long sword in a wide arc. It sent the two brothers flying to the ends of the rooftop garden. The impact rocked their bodies, but it looked like they managed to block the attack just in time. How arrogant of you! Aaron said angrily. You think you can just waltz in here and defeat us that easily? This is for Ares. Arun rushed in with his cutlass and slashed wildly. Digby placed his long sword in the path of the cutlass and blocked it. Blade to blade, the sparks flew as the two weapons clashed. The cutlass in Arun's hand started to change colors. It turned deep purple, with a few tints of red scattered around. The Sinful King's Blade. Arun's cutlass started glowing with an otherworldly light, imbuing it with an ancient power that had been dormant for centuries. Ra! He swung the cutlass around him and then did one final swing that caused a wave of energy to fly out of the blade, heading straight to Digby. Super jump! Digby crouched before leaping high into the air like a spring, narrowly avoiding the wave of energy. While in the air, he switched the grip on the sword from a standard one-handed hold to a reverse grip and brought it down with all his strength. Arun quickly evaded the attack. Digby's sword stabbed through the roof and made the building rattle violently. He quickly pulled out the sword from the ground and then, using his reverse grip, attacked a run, but he placed his purple-bladed cutlass against Digby's sword, stopping the attack. Just in time. "Watch out, brother!" Aaron screamed as he came in, rushing in with nothing but armor wrapped around his bulky body and gauntlets on his hands. Aaron grinned, then backflipped into the safety. Aaron reeled in his fist, and his armored gauntlet changed colors to a faint purple. The Fist of Karaj. Digby swung his shield and smashed it against the gauntlet-covered fist. Thump, smash. A loud, violent wind whipped throughout the rooftop garden and sent all the chairs, tables, and potted plants flying. "Ah, break through!" Aaron screamed as he hoped that his gauntlet would just punch through the shield. However, the shield had turned shades of deep purple. It was coated by Digby's powerful craft. Aaron had weaker craft. It was obvious, and no matter how much he tried, he wouldn't be able to destroy either of Digby's weapons. "Brother!" Aaron headed back to the fight to assist his brother after seeing the failed attack. "You too. I'll say this only once, leave my guild alone." Digby's tone changed. Aaron's eyes widened. Aaron rushed from the side, his cutlass already heading to Digby's face. At that moment, Digby parried the attack loosely to the side, then let go of his main weapon and grabbed Aaron by the throat. "Ugh!" Aaron gagged and struggled to break through, but then swung his cutlass and slashed Digby's arm. However, it was only a small flesh wound. "Impossible, I have stronger craft than Digby, but I barely made a scratch." It shocked Aaron to the core. Digby threw Aaron to the ground with a thunderous force. Aaron's breath escaped his lungs in sharp gasps while the blood started to clog up his throat. The throw caused a tremendous amount of damage to him. At that moment, Digby raised his shield and smashed its bottom against Aaron's chest, cracking his ribs. "Arg, fuck!" Aaron coughed out in pain. "Shit!" Aaron swung his fist, only to be blocked by Digby's shield. Digby, using his left hand, pulled out his long sword from the ground and stabbed it through Aaron's kneecap. Aaron howled in pain. The two brothers laid down on the ground, both whimpering in pain. At that moment, the rooftop garden's door swung wide open as mercenaries of the Amarin brothers rushed in, weapons drawn. They heard lots of noises and saw how the building shook violently. They knew there was a high-level fight going on, but they knew their guild masters were supposed to be there. They couldn't just leave without checking to make sure their leaders were safe. However, when they finally arrived and saw the condition of their leaders, they could barely believe their eyes. Their powerful, resilient guild masters were whimpering on the ground, bleeding and battered, looking like they had been through a brutal battle. "I am not going to kill you now," Digby said and sheathed his sword. "However, if I hear that any of you approach one of my guild members, I will not hesitate to end you." "Arg!" Aaron held his broken knee and looked up at Digby with hate in his eyes. Enjoy these years." Aaron laughed through pain and slowly sat back up. "When you're old and frail, we'll be there." Digby didn't answer to them and instead jumped off the building and landed on the roof of the building on the opposite side of the street. Digby silently walked away with thoughts floating in his mind. At that moment, a strange explosion rattled the nearby buildings, and it made thousands of pedestrians turn their heads around to see what it was. "Hey!" Digby looked to the distance and saw a plume of thick, black smoke rising into the air. It came near the market. What happened there? Chapter 97, Magic. Cough. Adam went behind a corner and tried to cough out the smoke from his lungs. He then looked back towards the smoking house and wondered what the hell was going on. "I know that others have claimed to have seen God's pure light, but I have never heard of this happening. The light was warm and inviting, like the rumors say, but why was it also painful to look at? Also, why did the light cause the explosion? He didn't know the answers to any of that, but he felt like there was something else to that ceremony that he hadn't thought of yet. "Hey, you there!" A shout came out of nowhere. Adam looked towards the end of the alley and saw a group of armored individuals approaching him. They looked like knights with their swords drawn. "Watchmen of Dawn Watch, this is bad." Adam slowly backed off, thinking about his options. "Don't move an inch!" an armored figure shouted. "Or you'll be treated as the culprit and will face the full force of the law." "I am already treated as the culprit," Adam thought with an ugly expression. "The law of this world is twisted and corrupt. I am not going to let them take me down without a fight." Adam pulled out a long cloak to cover both his face and the armor. It was because he was still wearing his crimson armor. He couldn't allow the watchmen to catch a good eye on it, otherwise, it would be pretty easy for them to find out his identity via crimson hounds. "He is planning to fight," a watchman said. "Yeah, I feel it his attacking intent. Take him down, don't kill him. I can sense that he is in the late stages of mercenaryman. He can just respawn without losing much of anything. We'll need to take him alive and force him to get sentenced by the lawmakers. I ain't going down without a fight." Adam screamed and started running straight towards them. "What a fool!" The watchmen raised their weapons. "I thought the tutorial taught him not to get ahead of himself." As Adam was about to launch his attack, his attacking intent suddenly vanished like it never existed, and he disappeared from the eyes of the watchmen like a ghost. Their eyes bulged out in shock. "Where did he go? I can't sense him anywhere." "Go find him. Don't let him escape." That was close. Adam watched from a nearby rooftop as the watchman scurried away. He used his little god's illusion ability to fake his intent to attack the watchman. While they were under the illusion, Adam simply escaped to a nearby rooftop. If he planned to run away, he doubted he would be able to outrun the watchmen after all. They were rather powerful, much more powerful than him. If they weren't powerful, they wouldn't be allowed to scout the streets and protect the city in the first place. Adam, after seeing that the watchman had left the area, left the roof and quickly escaped the area as well. Crimson Hound's residence. "Here." Adam handed over the crimson armor to Digby. "Oh, you returned it." Digby nodded and put it hanging from a hook on the wall. "So, you remembered that it was only lent to you?" Adam nodded. "I am not a full member of Crimson Hounds yet. I know my place." "Good, good." Digby sat back down and crossed his legs. "How was your first raid?" "I know it was more troublesome than expected." "I think it went well," Adam replied. "I received reports from others, and they all told me one thing." Digby checked out some reports on the desk and smiled. "That the success of the raid was mainly because of you." "I can't take all the credit," Adam said. "Nahus was rather a decent leader." "Did he give you a hard time?" Digby asked. "At first, but then we worked together." Digby nodded. "It is hard to be a genius. There will always be people who wish for your downfall. Nahus can be hard-headed, but he is a good kid." Adam nodded. "What are your plans now?" Digby asked. "Visit the real world," Adam said. "Yeah, that's good." Digby nodded wisely. "This world can be addictive, but never forget about the real world. Take a few days to unwind and relax, then get back to work." "I'll do that." Adam nodded. "May I also get what I asked for?" Sure." Digby rummaged through the drawers and took out a scroll. "I am not sure if this is the wisest thing yet. You just learned Kiryoku, and it is wise to understand it before moving to other powers." "I know and I will, but I want to give it a shot." Adam said and accepted the scroll. "It is up to you, I guess," Digby said. "However, during our training, I'll only teach you Kiryoku. The other powers can wait until you have learned Kiryoku first." "I understand." The conversation soon finished, and Adam left the office and headed straight back to his quarters. His quarters looked the same as they did when he first received them. He hadn't done any decorating or personalizing since moving in. Before leaving, I wonder if I can do that. Adam slipped his feet out of his shoes, put them aside, and left them in a neat row by the door. He then sat down on his bed, took a position at the center of it, and then sat cross-legged. Then he took out the worn-out scroll. It was the main reason why he went to meet Digby after returning to the guild residence. This scroll was magic scroll. With this, he could finally start to learn magic. In my past life, I learned this and became quite decent with magic. This is different than with Kiryoku, which I was very clueless about. I don't have any enlightenment pills, but I still remember learning magic as if it were just yesterday. I wonder if I can learn this quickly. He shrugged his shoulders and then closed his eyes. The scroll in his eyes glowed with a faint color and entered his head through his forehead. Just like that, he knew the exact steps to start learning magic. Adam closed his eyes deeply. Magic. The steps were different from Kiryoku. He imagined a river of mana and materialized it inside his vastness of mind. It would usually take months to do for newcomers. However, because he had done this countless times, he managed to do it immediately. A river of mana flowed through his mind with a strong current. Whew! Adam breathed out and then imagined that the river of mana was flowing into his body from the mind. This was the hardest step. However, Adam still did it so ridiculously easily. The river of mana flowed from his mind into his body, filling every vein, every muscle, and every cell with power. If anyone else saw what was happening inside his body, they would cough out blood. What would usually take months took only a few seconds for Adam. This is so easy. Adam thought and softly opened his eyes. Can it really be this easy? There was one last step. He needed to be able to control the mana inside his body to be able to use it for spells and incantations. Control. Adam closed his eyes and imagined the mana flowing through his body to his fingertips. He then slowly raised his hands, and a few invisible threads flew out of his fingertips. They flew for a few seconds before vanishing. As soon as he did that, his body started to feel relaxed and weightless, as if he could just jump off the bed and float to the end of the room. Adam's eyes shot wide open. I did it. I learned magic. Inside the darkest depths of his mind, a small puddle appeared. It was the mana ocean. It completely replaced his previous sea that told the state of his current emotions. Now, the puddle was rippling quite a lot because of Adam's excitement. The one's magic strength was determined by how big of the ocean one had in their mind. When the ocean was depleted, it meant their mana had ran off and couldn't use their magic skills anymore. That's why magicians focus on increasing the size of their mana oceans so they could use more of their skills. Stronger the skills, more they use the mana. Chapter 98, Epicenter of Criminal Activity. Pitter-patter. Dark clouds gathered over calm Navy Town, and then the rain began to fall in a soft drizzle. The rain tapped against a window of a freshly painted house, and the sound was soothing to the ears of the young man inside. Inside the house, in the living room with a television playing in the background, Adam sipped a freshly brewed coffee with his phone in hand. He was fiddling with his phone, scrolling through social media for the news of the past week. Some of the news he remembered, but some felt completely new, as if he had missed out on a lot. At that moment, an ad popped out right in the middle of the phone screen. It was an ad for an upcoming movie, starring a beautiful actress with bright blue eyes and long, flowing hair. Oh, I remember her faintly. Adam thought to himself. A mercenary that became famous and started starring in big blockbuster movies. If I remember correctly, she is only going to be famous for a couple of years, then she will get pregnant and quit the industry to spend time with her family. The front door slowly opened, and John came in with bags of groceries. Oh, Adam," he said, then moved to the refrigerator and started filling it up. "John." Adam nodded and closed the phone before pocketing it. "Need help?" "No need, I am fine." John quickly emptied the bags, then put the plastic bags inside kitchen cabinets for later use. They usually used the plastic bags as garbage bags, as it was an effective way of recycling them. After doing that, John also took a cup of coffee, then sat down on the table and began reading the newspaper. Adam finished up the coffee and went to the sink to wash the cup. Then he placed it on the drying rack to dry. "What should I do?" Adam thought to himself. "Maybe I should go for a run." "If you're planning to go out, be careful," John said and turned pages in the newspaper. "Apparently there's been some shady individuals lurking around in our neighborhood." "Is that so?" Adam said with a frown. "A coincidence or some people from the underworld? I don't think they'll do anything except gather information about me and then sell that information to other world killers if one decides to come after me. Currently, no one has any reason to go after me, but I suppose I'll have to prepare." "John, are you interested in going on a vacation?" Adam asked. "A vacation?" John raised an eyebrow and shook his head. "I don't really have that kind of money, and I am sure Sarah is busy with her store. I can fund the trip for 3 of you, as thanks for allowing me to keep playing Mortal Online." John looked surprised. "Are you sure? This is a generous offer. Talk to Sarah. A week in New Paradise does wonders, or so I've heard." Adam said with a smile and then headed upstairs. John, left alone in the living room, contemplated the offer deeply. He had always wanted to visit New Paradise and its crystal-clear waters and beaches. It was a beautiful place with a rich culture and vibrant nightlife, but it was also quite expensive. Many of his co-workers had visited New Paradise for a couple days and to this day, they're still talking about their unforgettable experiences and adventures there. A week there? John contemplated. It's going to be expensive, but he wouldn't suggest it if he wasn't aware of its cost. Also, he managed to pay the rent, as well, so I guess he has good finances. If I had known that game would make so much money, I would have also tried it as younger, but alas, I am old now. New Paradise, it sounds nice. On the upstairs, Adam went back to his room and sat down on the desk with his computer in front of him. Without further ado, he ventured deep into the dark web and into Mortal Online's forums. He didn't offer the free trip out of goodness of his heart. There was something he had to do, and they couldn't be around here for it. I'll need to visit Red Thread. Adam checked out the posts about the Red Thread and how things are there currently. Occasionally, there were gang wars there that made things dangerous for the residents and visitors. He didn't really want to visit the Red Thread if that was the case. However, as it seemed, it was currently quite peaceful there. It will cost a lot for them to do that to his house. However, it will be worth it. It will keep me and them safe if someone bearing ill will decides to cause trouble. He then left the dark web and went to the New Paradise's website. He immediately bought 3 tickets, each of them lasting a week. Sarah hasn't agreed yet, but I know she will. After all, I know just how much she has been dreaming of visiting that place. Her friends have been bragging about how amazing it is and how they had the best time of their lives there. She also wants to experience it. I remember her long rants about it, so I'm sure she will accept this offer with a smile on her face. The following morning. "Don't you make a mess out of this place!" Sarah shouted from the front door with a red suitcase in hand. Yeah, Adam said while bidding them farewell. "Thanks for this, we'll be back in a week," John said and patted him on the shoulder. He was quite surprised about his wife's reaction to the trip when he spoke to her about it. She seemed thrilled. However, as usual, she acts sternly toward Adam. Still, he knew that she was quite pleased that he had offered such a trip to them. "Are you sure you don't want to come?" Alice asked with a hopeful smile. "Please come. It will be nice." I have something to do, sadly. Adam said with a soft smile. You go and have some fun. Alice mumbled, feeling disappointed that Adam wouldn't be joining them. All right, see you in a week. They then entered their cars and drove off towards the airport, where they would catch their flight to their vacation destination. As soon as their car was out of sight, Adam closed the front door and checked his phone. He had received an email notification about another one of his purchases. He had also purchased plane tickets to another destination, Ivy Crest, where the red thread was located. Red thread. Adam pocketed his phone and went back to his room, where he took a hidden backpack from under his bed. It had all the necessary items for his trip to Ivy Crest. He opened the backpack. There were some food, water, and sharp knives with red handles. Adam took out one of the knives from the backpack and twirled it around his fingers before carefully placing it back inside. He was hoping he didn't need to use them, but Red Thread was the epicenter of criminal activity, and he knew he had to be prepared for anything. Adam slung the backpack over his shoulder and saw his virtual reality pod in the corner of the room. He gently touched it and whispered, "I'll be back soon." With that, he closed the lights off and left the room. Chapter 99, St. Jason. Below the regressed streets, the hidden network of sewer tunnels and passageways extended in every direction like a labyrinth. At the heart of the underground chamber, the broad-shouldered figure of a man stood tall in front of the lonely-looking door. It was just another day for him, standing in front of the entrance of the underground city. "Shit, this smell is going to kill me one day," the man murmured to himself in annoyance, then took out a pack of cigarettes and lit one up. After placing one between his lips, he suddenly heard a faint echo of footsteps. It was easy to hear when someone was approaching, as the sewers echoed like a never-ending tunnel. From the depths of the sewer, a figure of average height slowly emerged, an ordinary backpack slung over his shoulder and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. "Stop right there," the man ordered and took a puff of the cigarette. "What's your business here, stranger?" "I am seeking entrance to the Red Thread." Adam said this while adjusting his backpack and stepping forward confidently. "Never seen you before," the man said, then dropped the cigarette on the ground and crushed it with his boot. "We don't like strangers here." "I understand. Do you need my identification?" Adam asked with a smile under the baseball cap. "Go on, give it to me." The man leisurely put his hand forth. He was acting very carefreely, even though his job was very dangerous. After all, he was guarding the entrance of the underground city. One would think it was a place where one would try to sneak in each passing day. However, no one dared, because everyone knew this man in the underground circle. Adam rummaged through his backpack, found his ID, and then gave it to the man. He didn't want to cause trouble with this man either. St. Jason, a legend, Adam thought while looking at the man. He is the fighting champion of the underground world. However, that is in the future, but that doesn't mean he isn't strong. He started as nothing but low-grade thug and worked his way up through sheer determination and skill. Now, he is the gatekeeper of the Red Thread, a dangerous and well-paying job. He is feared and respected by all who know him in the underground world. In a couple of years, he'll participate in the fighting championship of the underground world and win it all. St. Jason checked out the identification papers. It had a picture of Adam, a young man with a pale face, a navy-colored eyes, and slightly long black hair. "Take off your cap," he ordered, as he couldn't tell whether the owner of the ID was really him. Adam slowly took off his baseball cap, then fixed up his hair and showed his face to him. St. Jason nodded after seeing the face match the picture, and then looked at the name. Adam. Palestar. He hadn't been playing Mortal Online at all, but even he recognized the name. It was a name that had been spoken quite often during bar nights at the inn. "Interesting," St. Jason said, and he then closed the ID and gave it back to Adam. "May I enter now?" Adam asked and pocketed his ID. Saint Jason crossed his arms and leaned on the door. No. Why? Adam asked with a frown. Why forfeit your life like this? Saint Jason asked. This is not a place for wet-eared brats. Come back in a few years when you know more about the world. Adam put the baseball cap back on and shook his head. Do I need to pay you or what? I don't have time to waste on this. Leave, brat. Saint Jason lazily waved his hand. Death is not the worst outcome in here. There are fates that you can only imagine in your worst nightmares. I appreciate the concern, but I didn't ask for it. Adam said that and stood his ground. I didn't come here just to get turned around at the front steps. Step aside. Saint Jason scratched the back of his head and picked up his baseball bat from the ground. All right, you're stubborn. He placed the bat on his shoulder and smirked. Make me move then, kid. Are you serious? Adam asked with a cold look. You might be famous in the fake world. Saint Jason said, S-ranker or not, none of that really matters to me. I live in reality, unlike you fakers. Adam dropped his backpack to the ground and then brought out his two red-handled knives. Oh, prepared, are you? Saint Jason laughed. Adam lowered his gaze to the dirty ground and saw broken glasses, dirty rags, and folded cardboard boxes. Saint Jason raised his bat over his shoulder and put it into a hacking position. It was solid aluminum, a real slugger's bat. It was enough to crack skulls and crush bones with ease. Adam suddenly slid his boot across the coarse, dirty ground and kicked up the broken glass that was sharp enough to slice skin open. Those flew straight at the broad-shouldered man. Saint Jason smashed his bat through the glass, but a few shards still pierced through his skin, causing blood to trickle down his arm. Adam made a dash forward and whirled his knives in Saint Jason's direction. Saint Jason quickly backed off, narrowly avoiding the sharp blades. It looked bad for him as he didn't have a lot of space to move around. The door was right behind him, and in front of him was a somewhat narrow sewer tunnel. Adam rushed straight in and jabbed his red-handled knife towards the cornered man. With a swing of the arm, Saint Jason brought down his bat and struck the knife off Adam's hand. The red-handled knife flew away and landed in a small, dirty puddle on the ground. NGH. Adam grunted in frustration and tossed his left-handed knife to his dominant right hand. At that moment, Adam grabbed the folded cardboard box from the ground and tossed it over to Saint Jason. It perfectly blocked his vision. Saint Jason smashed his bat through the cardboard box, and then saw Adam's knife heading in his way. His eyes narrowed into a narrow line, and he quickly pulled back, but the knife sliced through his cheek all the way to the ear. It was a scar-inducing attack. Fucker. Saint Jason shot his leg up and kicked Adam to the chest. Adam staggered backwards with a loud grunt and almost dropped to the sewer water. The kick rocked his insides and he had difficulties of breathing. What a tremendous physical prowess! I always wondered how strong Saint Jason would be in Mortal Online. Shame that he never had the desire. Arg, shit. Saint Jason touched his bleeding cheek and felt the ringing in his ear. Fuck. Adam wiped the sweat off and picked up his backpack from the ground. Fine, I'll leave. He knew he wouldn't be able to defeat Saint Jason. It was a losing fight. However, he didn't want to look weak. It was good to show a strong impression and perhaps he'll change his mind about letting him in. Now, it started to look like the fight was heading in a dangerous direction. It could lead into Adam's untimely death. It was a risk he didn't want to take. Wait. Saint Jason said coldly and looked at him with a sharp gaze. The atmosphere turned cold and tense. Adam gulped and tightened his grip on his knife. Ha! Saint Jason let out a deep breath and then smiled through pain. Not bad, not bad. He turned around and swung the door wide open with a fresh scent wafting through the open Door. It was rather good-smelling scent, compared to the disgusting stench of the sewer. What is this? Adam asked. I changed my mind. Saint Jason said with a smirk and looked at the door. Go on, enter. That place. Adam raised an eyebrow in surprise, then slung the backpack over his shoulder and slowly walked past Saint Jason and through the open door. At that moment, a voice came behind him. If you die, there'll be no one to bury you there. With those words, the door closed behind him. Chapter 100, Kong Saruza. Opening the door, Adam stepped through into the streets of Red Thread. The street was nestled in some obscure corner of the city. It had some pedestrians moving by, but for the most part, it was eerily quiet. It's rarely this quiet. What's going on? Adam lowered the cap further over his eyes and walked down the cobblestone road, trying not to attract any attention. It only took him 2 minutes of walking before he heard some loud banging noises. Adam looked around the streets. They were empty, and there weren't any pedestrians around either. At that moment, from one of the buildings, a wounded man crashed out of the door and fell onto the sidewalk, gasping for air with a bleeding wound on the shoulder. Then, another man stepped out of the building with a gun in hand, aimed it at the wounded man, and then pulled the trigger. Bang! A bullet pierced through the wounded man's forehead, ending his life. The man with the gun raised his gaze and saw another person around. The person looked somewhat younger than most people in Red Thread and had a baseball cap pulled over his eyes. Without further ado, he lifted his gun and placed his finger on the trigger. Adam's eyes shook, and he quickly rolled to the side alleyway. Bang! The bullet flew and landed on the brick wall beside him with a piercing sound. What in the world? Adam's eyes shook. Did I accidentally waltz onto an ongoing gang war? The man removed the clip from his gun, let it drop to the ground, and then pulled out a fresh one from his pocket. He cocked his gun and slowly headed in the alleyway's direction. As he neared the corner, he quickly jumped out with his gun ready and fired multiple shots at the dark alleyway. The bullets landed on nothing but air. Hey! The man looked at the empty alleyway. Where did he go? There were more paths at the end of the alleyway, which the baseball cap-wearing young man must have taken. He ran away. The man shook his head. TCH, TCH. At that moment, a loud bang resounded from one of the roofs and pierced through his temple, also ending his life. On the roof, a dark-eyed man was standing with a gun in his hand, a smirk on his face. Fool got distracted. Already far away, Adam navigated through the alleyways and soon exited into a street, which he recognized as one of the main streets of Red Thread. Strangely enough, it was also quite empty and quiet. However, at that moment, he heard a voice. You there, foolish one? Hey! Adam turned around and saw a man leaning on a bar wall with a cigarette on his lips and an alcohol bottle in hand. You newcomer? The man asked. Otherwise, you would be a very stupid one, just wandering into an active scene of a death match. Death match? Adam whispered to himself. I see. That's why this place is so deserted. I just arrived. I see. The man pointed behind the war. You can watch from here. But don't get in the way. Adam nodded briefly and entered the bar. There were many people inside, all watching the death match unfold on a large screen. They were screaming, cheering, and drinking while enjoying the show. The death match was an event that was arranged once a month. Everyone could register for it and try to win it. It was basically a battle royale, only one would survive, but the winner gets rewarded with a small fortune that would be enough for them to live a leisure life and never have to work again. It was quite a popular event in the underground world, broadcast across all criminal networks. The prize money attracted some of the deadliest and most cunning fighters from around the world. The man went to the corner table, where a group of his friends were laughing and drinking. He then whispered something to them, and they all turned their heads to Adam. Adam acted like he wasn't aware of those gazes, but he was very much so. Time to go. He touched his cap, turned around, and made his way to the exit. As soon as he left, the people at the corner table stood up and headed in the same direction. Outside, Adam stepped onto the sidewalk and, with a rapid pace, started heading in the opposite direction of the death match. With his keen hearing, he was able to hear the doors of the bar swing open after his departure. However, he didn't turn his head around and just kept walking forward. Through the streets and alleys, he made his way to the outskirts of the underground town. It was getting darker and colder as he walked further away from the center. The lights on the ceiling didn't reach the far corners of the town, so it was quite dark and cold there. Strangely enough, there were still people who lived there. In a far corner of the underground city, there was a dim store with dirty windows, but the door was open with a shoe placed against the door frame so it wouldn't close. An open sign hung outside, swaying slightly in the breeze. Adam stepped through the door immediately after. As soon as he did, the men following him stopped in the nearest alley. They eyed the store curiously. He entered that place. It's owned by the Sarusa family. We can't do anything crazy here, or they'll put our heads on a pike. Let's wait until he comes out, then we'll be able to do whatever we want. Inside the store, Adam slowly removed his baseball cap and looked around the store with a glint in his eyes. The store looked different from its future counterpart. It was somewhat dimly lit with dusty shelves and a musty smell in the air. Completely different from the bright, popular store it would eventually become. A rusty chandelier hung from the ceiling, casting a dim light over the store. It was almost like the light bulb was on its last legs, barely emitting any light. Ah, a visitor. A gray-haired man came from the back of the store, wiping his hands on his apron. We're selling a variety of items that might pique your interest. Adam approached the counter and saw some vintage cameras displayed in a glass case. There were also some antique watches and pieces of jewelry scattered on the shelves. It was almost like this store was a jewelry store. Jewelry? Adam asked with a raised eyebrow. That's right. The gray-haired man chuckled. My name's Kong Sarusa, the owner of this establishment. I see. Adam slid his finger across the glass display case. There's something I would like to purchase from this establishment. Oh, please tell me. Kong said with a warm, elderly smile. Z package. Adam said, and the atmosphere of the store changed suddenly. Kong still smiled, but his vibe was completely different. Z package? What's that? You're Kong Sarusa, the owner of House Enforcement, aren't you? Adam asked. I am not sure where you heard that, but you're mistaken. Kong said and pointed to the door. I am sorry, but it looks like you entered the wrong store. May I suggest a house decorating store down the street? My name's Adam Palestar. Adam placed his ID on the counter. And I do need your help. Kang's smile vanished. Can you afford it? I can afford the down payment. Adam said. The rest I'll have to pay in installments. I see. Kong nodded and removed his apron before placing it on the nearby chair. Follow me then.